When we speak of awakening to inner strength, we are not speaking of a motivational slogan, not an empty phrase designed to make you feel good for a few moments and then disappear when life presses against you again. No. We are speaking about something deeper, something that belongs to the very core of your being. Carl Jung, who devoted his life to exploring the inner world of the human soul, believed that within each of us lies a vast reservoir of strength, a force that is often hidden beneath layers of doubt, fear, and social conditioning. To awaken to this strength is not to deny weakness, but to rise above it, to understand that weakness is not your identity, it is a passing condition, an invitation to growth, a signal that life is calling you to evolve. Now think about the world we live in today. It is noisy, chaotic, demanding. Everywhere you look, there are voices telling you who to be, what to want, how to live, and what success should look like. If you listen to that noise long enough, you begin to believe that you are small, insignificant, fragile. But Jung tells us the opposite, that life is not designed for fragility, that the human spirit was born to endure, to transform, to create. He reminds us that strength is not something you must borrow from the outside, it is already within you, waiting for you to claim it. But awakening to inner strength is not easy. It requires courage. It requires you to turn inward, to look into yourself without fear. Most people spend their lives running away from themselves, distracting themselves with work, with entertainment, with endless busyness, because they are afraid of what they might find if they stop and listen. Yet Jung would say that what you find, even in the darkest corners, is not meant to destroy you, it is meant to empower you. The very places you think of as weak, the very wounds you try to hide, contain the seeds of your strength. To awaken is to open your eyes to this truth. You see, strength is not the absence of fear, not the denial of pain, not a mask of perfection that you wear to impress the world. Real strength is something much more authentic. It is the willingness to face what is difficult, to hold your ground when the storm rises, to look at your life with honesty and say, yes, I have fallen, but I will not remain here. I will rise. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming whole, of integrating every part of yourself, light and dark, strong and weak, into a self that is true and alive. And this is why I say, wake up. Life is not for weakness. It is not for sleepwalking through your days, carried along by habits, fears, and excuses. Life calls for presence. It calls for awareness. It calls for you to recognize the enormous gift you have been given, the gift of existence itself, and to rise into it with strength. Every time you choose to avoid your power, every time you let fear dictate your choices, you shrink. But every time you stand up, even trembling, even uncertain, you expand. That is inner strength. Let me tell you something important, weakness is not the enemy. Weakness is the teacher. It shows you where you need to grow. It reveals the areas of your life where courage is required. When you feel weak, when you feel afraid, when you feel small, that is the moment to listen, to pay attention. Jung would say that the unconscious is speaking to you, pointing you toward the places where your true self is waiting to emerge. So do not despise your weakness. Do not hide from it. Wake up to it. Learn from it. Let it show you the way to strength. I want you to imagine for a moment that your life is like a deep well. On the surface, it may look calm, ordinary, even fragile. But if you dare to go deeper, if you have the courage to descend past the noise of the world and the chatter of your mind, you will find something powerful there, waters that are ancient, strong, eternal. That is your inner strength. It does not disappear because you doubt yourself. It does not vanish when you fail. It is always there, waiting for you to reconnect with it. Awakening means daring to go deep enough to touch that source and to bring it back up into your daily life. And I know, life is hard. We lose people we love. We fail at things we worked for. We face rejection, illness, disappointment. There are times when it feels easier to give up, to sink into despair, to believe that weakness defines us. But Jung would remind us, suffering is not meaningless. In fact, suffering often becomes the very ground on which strength is built. Without trials, we remain shallow. Without struggles, we never discover who we truly are. Strength is forged in the fire of difficulty. So when life tests you, do not collapse into weakness. Wake up. See the test as the very moment you are being invited to discover the power within you. There is another truth here: inner strength is not loud. It is not arrogance, not aggression, not domination over others. Those are masks of insecurity. Real strength is quiet, steady, unshakable. It is the calm center in the storm, the voice inside you that says, "I can face this. I will not be broken." Jung said that the soul finds its voice in silence, and it is in silence that strength grows. When you strip away the noise, the comparisons, the expectations, you begin to hear the voice of your own soul, and that voice is always stronger than you think. But here is the paradox: to awaken to inner strength, you must first admit that you are asleep. You must recognize the ways you have allowed weakness to control you, through fear, through avoidance, through self-doubt. That recognition is not defeat. It is the beginning of awakening. To say, "Yes, I have been asleep, but now I will rise," is itself an act of power. Jung called it the confrontation with the self, the moment when the ego realizes that it is not the center of the universe. That there is something greater within that longs to live. When you make contact with that greater self, strength begins to flow naturally. Think about this: every person you admire, every life that inspires you, is not free of weakness. They simply chose to awaken. They chose not to let weakness define them. They chose to rise. And you can too. It is not reserved for a select few. It is the birthright of every human being. The question is, will you wake up? Will you continue to live in excuses, or will you claim your inner strength? Will you allow life to pass you by, or will you rise into it with courage? This is the choice each of us must make, not once, but again and again, every single day. Strength is not a single moment of victory, it is a practice, a way of being, a decision to align with the truth of who you are. And I will tell you this: the world needs your strength. Not the world's version of strength, built on competition and noise, but your authentic, inner strength. The kind that heals, that creates, that inspires. When you awaken to it, you not only transform your own life, you become a light for others. You give permission for others to rise as well. That is how change happens, not through force, but through presence, through the quiet power of individuals who have chosen to awaken. So when you leave here, when you return to your life, remember this: life is not for weakness. It is not for sleepwalking. It is not for hiding. Life is for strength. Life is for awakening. Life is for the courage to stand up, to look within, to rise again and again no matter how many times you fall. And if you forget everything else, remember this one line: your strength is already within you. Wake up, and claim it. There comes a point in every life when the excuses we've been telling ourselves no longer hold. The story that someone else will come and save us, that life will eventually organize itself, that time will heal everything without our involvement, these stories collapse. And when they collapse, we are left with the truth, that no one else can live your life for you. No one else can carry your responsibility. No one else can make your choices, heal your wounds, or step into your potential. That is your task alone. Carl Jung called this the path of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are. And it begins with responsibility. To take responsibility is to wake up. It is to see that life does not hand you meaning neatly packaged, you must create it. It is to see that pain will not dissolve because you wish it so, you must learn from it, integrate it, transform it. It is to see that every decision you avoid, every truth you deny, every shadow you refuse to face only delays your growth. Jung warned that avoiding responsibility keeps us trapped in immaturity. He once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Think about that. How much of what we call bad luck, unfairness, or destiny is simply the result of refusing to confront ourselves? We suffer, we repeat patterns, we blame others, when in truth, life is waiting for us to take ownership. Taking responsibility is not about blame. It is not about carrying guilt like a heavy stone. It is about power. When you say, "This is my life, and I am responsible for it," you are reclaiming your freedom. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstance, no longer a victim of what others did or did not do. You are saying, "I choose. I act. I create." And in that choice, your strength awakens. But let's be honest, responsibility is heavy. It asks for courage. It asks you to face the parts of yourself you would rather avoid. It asks you to stand up when it would be easier to collapse. Jung knew that people resist responsibility because it means confronting the shadow, the hidden, unacknowledged aspects of ourselves. It is much easier to project, to blame others, to say, "The problem is out there." But every time we do that, we give away our power. True responsibility means turning the mirror inward. It means asking, "What is mine to face here? What choices have I made? What can I do differently?" That is not weakness. That is strength. Consider this: every great transformation begins with someone taking responsibility. Every breakthrough, every healing, every story of growth begins when a person says, "Enough. I will no longer run. I will face myself. I will take charge of my life." You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. Responsibility is the act of claiming that response as your own. And here is where Jung's wisdom becomes so vital. He understood that the responsibility we take is not just practical, it is psychological, it is spiritual. To become whole, we must own our inner world. We must stop waiting for others to validate us, stop demanding that others fix us, and instead begin the deep work of integrating our own contradictions. Responsibility for the self means saying, "My fear, my anger, my wounds, my joy, my potential, all of it belongs to me. I will not deny it. I will not run from it. I will carry it and learn how to live it fully." Responsibility does not mean isolation. It does not mean doing everything alone. We need each other, we need community, we need love. But even in love, responsibility remains. No partner, no friend, no parent, no child can give you yourself. That is the work only you can do. And when you refuse it, when you try to escape it, you place an impossible burden on others. You ask them to live your life for you, and they cannot. This is why so many relationships collapse, because instead of owning our responsibility, we project it outward, hoping someone else will carry it. So what does it mean to live responsibly, truly? It means becoming conscious. It means asking, in every situation, what is life asking of me here? What choice aligns with my deepest truth? It means not hiding from failure, but seeing failure as feedback, as guidance, as a teacher. It means refusing to live as if tomorrow is guaranteed, because it is not. Responsibility is urgency. It is the realization that this is your one life, and no one will live it for you. I want you to imagine for a moment what your life would look like if you embraced full responsibility. Imagine no longer waiting for others to give you permission, no longer blaming your past for your present, no longer avoiding your power. Imagine standing in the center of your life and saying, "This is mine. I accept it. I will shape it." Do you feel how powerful that is? That is the very opposite of weakness. That is awakening. But let us also acknowledge the resistance. Jung knew that many resist responsibility because it feels overwhelming. The ego prefers comfort, prefers to believe that things just happen to us. Taking responsibility can feel like carrying the weight of the world. But here is the paradox: when you take responsibility, life becomes lighter. Why? Because you stop fighting reality. You stop wasting energy on blame and avoidance. You direct that energy into action, into growth, into creation. Responsibility frees you, because it aligns you with truth. And I want you to hear this clearly: responsibility is not perfection. You will fail. You will make mistakes. You will stumble. Taking responsibility does not mean you will never fall, it means you will rise again because you know it is yours to do so. Weakness collapses and blames. Strength falls and rises. That is the difference. So when I say, wake up, life is not for weakness, I mean wake up to your responsibility. Do not give your life away. Do not wait for someone else to rescue you. Do not waste your days in complaint or resentment. Take responsibility for your choices, your healing, your growth. That is how you become whole. That is how you live with strength. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But that privilege demands responsibility. You cannot become who you are meant to be while blaming others, while refusing to face yourself, while waiting for life to carry you. To awaken to your true self, you must accept responsibility for the journey. You must carry the weight of your own becoming. And yes, it is heavy. But it is also glorious. Because in carrying it, you discover that you are far stronger than you ever believed. So I ask you, as you listen now, where in your life have you been avoiding responsibility? Where have you been waiting for others to do your work? Where have you been calling fate what is actually your own unconscious choice? Do not answer with shame. Answer with honesty. That honesty is the beginning of freedom. Life is calling you to rise. It is calling you to take responsibility for your own becoming. Weakness will always tempt you to collapse, to avoid, to sleep. But strength whispers, wake up. Stand. Own your life. Because in the end, no one else can do it for you. And if you carry nothing else from this moment, carry this. Your life belongs to you. Take responsibility, and live it fully. When we speak of living, truly living, we are not speaking about survival. We are not speaking about waking up, going to work, paying bills, and repeating the cycle until the body finally gives way. That is not living. That is existing. And life, this precious chance you have been given, was never meant for mere existence. It was meant for meaning. It was meant for depth, for growth, for purpose. Jung understood this well. He knew that a life stripped of meaning becomes unbearable. He said that people could endure the most difficult suffering if they could find meaning in it, but without meaning, even comfort turns into emptiness. And yet how many of us live without meaning because we are weighed down by excuses? Excuses for why we cannot change, excuses for why we cannot grow, excuses for why we cannot follow the call of our soul. We say we are too busy, too tired, too hurt, too old, too young, too afraid. We postpone living because we are waiting for conditions to be perfect, forgetting that conditions will never be perfect. Life does not wait for you. It moves. And every day you hesitate, every day you excuse yourself from your own purpose, is a day you never get back. To live with meaning is not about grand gestures. It is not only about building empires, writing books, or changing the whole world. Meaning begins in the small and the intimate. It begins in the way you treat yourself when you wake up in the morning, in the way you speak to others, in the honesty with which you approach your choices. Meaning is not something waiting in the distance, it is something you weave into each moment by showing up fully. And that showing up requires that you stop hiding behind excuses. Jung believed that within each of us is a self, a greater, deeper center that calls us toward wholeness. But the ego resists. The ego prefers safety, certainty, excuses. The ego says, not today, maybe tomorrow. Not me, maybe someone else. And so we drift. We drift into lives that feel half-lived, wondering why joy escapes us, why fulfillment never arrives. The reason is not that life withheld it. The reason is that we refuse to claim it. We allowed excuses to silence the deeper call. Think for a moment about the excuses you have told yourself. Perhaps you have said, I cannot leave this job because it is too late to start over. Perhaps you have said, I cannot heal because what was done to me was too great. Perhaps you have said, I cannot pursue my passion because people will not support me. Every excuse has the same effect, it chains you. It keeps you from meaning, from growth, from strength. Excuses disguise themselves as protection, but in truth, they are prisons. Life without excuses is not about recklessness. It is about courage. It is about saying, yes, the past has hurt me, but I will not let it define me. Yes, fear is real, but I will not let it rule me. Yes, uncertainty exists, but I will not let it stop me. When you live with meaning, you understand that life's worth is not in avoiding pain but in growing through it. Jung often emphasized that the greatest treasures are found where you least want to look, in the shadow, in the fear, in the wound. Excuses keep you away from that place. Meaning invites you into it. Living with meaning also demands alignment. It demands that your outer life reflect your inner truth. Too many of us wear masks to please others, to fit into systems, to appear successful. But inside, we feel disconnected. Jung warned of this split between the persona, the mask we show the world, and the authentic self. If you live only for the mask, you may appear successful, but inside you will feel empty. Meaning comes when you tear away the mask, when you dare to be seen as you truly are, even if it is uncomfortable, even if it is vulnerable. Because meaning is not about perfection, it is about authenticity. And I want you to hear this, living with meaning does not mean every day will be extraordinary. It does not mean you will always feel inspired or confident. It means you will remain faithful to yourself, even in the ordinary, even in the struggle. It means that when you look back at your life, you will know you lived it on your terms, aligned with your truth, without hiding behind excuses. That is the strength we are speaking of. That is the opposite of weakness. Excuses are seductive because they offer temporary relief. They allow you to avoid the risk of failure, the discomfort of change, the challenge of growth. But here is the hard truth: avoiding failure, avoiding discomfort, avoiding challenge is the surest way to fail. It is the surest way to waste the one life you have. Jung believed that growth comes only through confrontation, with yourself, with your limitations, with your fears. Excuses prevent that confrontation, and so they prevent your. Ask yourself, what meaning are you denying because of the excuses you cling to? What life are you postponing because you are waiting for guarantees? Who could you become if you stopped telling yourself why you cannot, and started asking how you can? These questions matter, because meaning does not arrive by accident. It arrives by choice. It arrives when you decide to stop excusing yourself and start living fully. Now, there will always be voices, inside you and around you, that tell you to play small. Voices that say, stay safe. Don't risk. Don't dare. And if you listen, you will remain trapped. But Jung taught us that the soul does not care for safety, it cares for wholeness. The soul will continue to whisper, to nudge, to ache, until you listen. And if you ignore it long enough, it will show up as crisis, as depression, as emptiness, as the feeling that nothing matters. These are not punishments, they are signals. They are life's way of saying, wake up. Live with meaning. Stop hiding behind excuses. And here is the paradox: when you live with meaning, even suffering is transformed. It does not disappear, but it gains context. You understand why it is there, what it is teaching you, how it is shaping you. Excuses dissolve suffering into bitterness. Meaning transforms suffering into growth. And in that transformation, weakness becomes strength. So what does it take, practically, to live with meaning without excuses? It takes honesty. Brutal, unflinching honesty with yourself. It takes asking, what do I truly want, beneath the expectations of others? What values matter to me most? Where am I lying to myself to avoid change? It takes courage to answer those questions, and even more courage to act on the answers. But that is the work of a meaningful life. It also takes responsibility, as we explored before. Because meaning cannot be handed to you. It cannot be given by a job, a relationship, or an achievement. Those things may support meaning, but they cannot create it for you. Meaning comes from within. It comes from your willingness to align your choices with your truth. And no one else can do that for you. Excuses will always be available. They will always whisper reasons why today is not the day, why you are not ready, why you cannot change. But meaning is only available if you refuse those whispers. It is only available if you say, I will not excuse myself for my own life any longer. I will not betray myself for safety. I will live now, as I am, with what I have. That is meaning. That is strength. When Jung spoke of individuation, he spoke of becoming whole, becoming yourself. That journey is not easy. It requires you to face contradictions, to integrate your shadow, to carry responsibility, to live with meaning. It requires you to abandon excuses and step into truth. But in doing so, you awaken. You wake up to a life that is alive, a life that is yours, a life that matters. And that is why I say again, wake up. Life is not for weakness. It is not for excuses. It is not for postponement. It is for living, deeply and fully, with meaning. And the power to do that is already within you. So I leave you with this. Do not waste your life with excuses. Live with meaning, live with courage, live awake. Because life is too precious, and it is yours.